The title of the book, Terror in Teutoburg Forest. Separated by 2,000 years, two great armies come face to face. And the author is John Rothdeiner, and John joins us now on Author Talk. Hello, John.
Hello, Steve. How you doing?
Well, this has the makings of a great full-length movie, and you're already working towards that. So this is it's a little bit of history, and it's a little bit of science fiction, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Tell us a little bit about the storyline and what caused you to write this.
To begin with, I was reading an article years ago about this battle that took place. And it was a small article, and I was really intrigued by it because 20,000 Roman soldiers went into this forest and they never came out. Now, that's roughly 12% of the Roman army at that time.
That was a forest in Germany.
Yes, a forest in Germany. And the year was 9 A.D. And there
wasn't any explanation in this article?
Not really an explanation. See, the battle site was not found until 1987. And that's why they knew where it happened, but they didn't know exactly where it happened. And they only assumed what happened, too. And considering that the Roman army at that time was one of the greatest fighting forces that, their battle formations are still used and studied today. And come to find out what had happened was a poorly armed group of Germanic warriors had defeated this massive Roman army.
How many Germanic warriors?
They don't know for sure.
It was a lot smaller.
Yes, it was a lot smaller.
And poorly armed.
Poorly armed, yes. So I was really fascinated with the battle. And one day I was at work, and I was listening to Sarah Brightman sing on one of her CDs, and music kind of motivates me, gets me really inspired. And I started thinking about this battle, and all of a sudden this came to my mind, and this came to my mind. I said, that'll make a good book. And basically, I started with the ending, and then I worked in the beginning, and then the last part of it I wrote was the battle itself. That was the hardest part because I wanted to make everything as realistic as I possibly could.
So we're talking about two great armies, 2,000 years apart. So the great army in 2009 is who?
It's a special terrorist assault team. Made up of United States Army soldiers. They're a special team. And their job is to go throughout the world, just take care of the terrorists, basically. What they were doing is they were taking care of a group of terrorists in Teutoburg Forest when this occurrence occurred, and they were pushed back exactly 2,000 years ago.
So a window in time opens up, and suddenly they're back 2,000 years.
That is correct.
I love it.
It's not just like that, but that's basically what it is.
So this force, this Army terrorist assault team, give us some of the main characters in this Army, or I guess they're not Army, are they? They're they're Army?
Yes, they are Army.
Okay, yes. Army assault team. Then.
I was in the U.S. Army in the service, so I decided to use the Army. The main person was Captain Johnson. Now he's an American Indian, and he's the one that formed the team. And he has his second in command is Ben Simpson as lieutenant, and he has a personal stake in the assault team because his wife was killed on 9/11 in one of the towers.
So this group was formed right after 9/11.
Yes, it was. That's the reason why it was formed.
For this purpose to root out and kill terrorists anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world, and they're elite team. They are on a moment's notice. When at times they have their own jet plane and all that, and they take off and go to wherever they're needed. And you have Sergeant Gary Parker. He's the platoon sergeant. You have Sergeant Matt Taylor. He's kind of the inspirator. He inspires the men.
The spiritual leader.
The spiritual leader of the group. Yes. Then you have Robert Sweeney. He's a weapons and explosive specialist, and he comes in pretty handy there because he comes up with some good ideas on how to defeat 20,000 men. So, and then you have Charlie Thomas, who is the captain's friend. They've been friends for years, and you have Frankie Linz. Now, Frankie Linz is a specialist, and he's a weapons specialist, but he is known for, in the book especially, is he gets real close to one of the Germanic warriors' kids, one of the children, and he calls him Little W for Little Warrior. He's a small little kid, and they get a real good relationship going. And that's what this book is really about to me. It's about relationships.
Now, some of these characters, are these people you know in real life, or is this something that you created just in your imagination?
Yes, I created them. You also have two hostages that Professor Gantz, he lived in Teutoburg Forest, and he was sent back too, and his daughter Sarah Thompson. And then you have the real people. You have the leader of the Romans, which is Varus, Quintilius Varus, and you had the leader of the Germanic tribes, which is Arminius. And Arminius is an interesting character because in 1865, the Germans in this forest built a statue 175 feet of this man. He's considered by some to be the first German leader. And when the Germans came to the United States, many of them settled in New Ulm, Minnesota. And in up there in New Ulm, Minnesota, is another statue. In fact, it's the third highest statue in North America of Arminius. Come September, there's going to be celebrations throughout this land in Germany of Arminius, or for Arminius, and this battle. So that's why I decided to get the book out this year, because if it's going to sell, it'll sell this year, because the publicity will be great.
Well, good for you. Good for you. Now, this special assault team known as TAT, T-A-T, now they're thrown into this time warp. They're thrown back 2,000 years, and suddenly they're in this forest, and they what happens? Give us a little bit of insight, and without giving away everything, what happens? That must be fairly startling.
It is very startling. Because when I was writing this book, first of all, I sent them back. Yeah. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute now, if you're sent back in time, something else is probably taking that space. So I have a lot of sci-fi there, and I don't want to go into details because I let it all out. But not all of them survive.
Wow.
There's 26 members and 5 hostages. Not all of them survive going back. And then they're not really certain where they're at.
So do they meet the Germanic tribe first, or do they go headlong into the Romans?
Actually, they run into a platoon of Romans, which they think is a movie.
I was going to say they probably don't know they've gone back 2,000 years. It probably doesn't, because they're still in the forest, right?
Right. They think it's a movie being produced. And but the run-in is kind of violent, and so they realize immediately that something's going on.
Now, do they have all their modern weapons with them?
Yes, they have all their equipment. No tanks, but they do have the weapons.
The automatic weapons.
They have M16s and
that gives them a little advantage.
Yes, it does. And when they went in to fight the terrorists, they went in pretty prepared. And they also have 2 dogs with them, and white German shepherds. And they're very well trained. And so, the dog lover, I had to put the dog lover in there. So
what is the, what's the reaction of Captain Johnson and the men to this sudden realization that they have gone back 2,000 years in time?
The reaction, especially for the captain at first, is skepticism. Okay. The first one to really know what's going on is Professor Gantz, because he's lived here all his life. All of a sudden,
he's lived in that area.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All of a sudden, he's one of the hostages.
Right.
All of a sudden, where there used to be a museum, it's no longer there. Where there used to be a canal, it's no longer there. No roads, no towns. Everything is different. And the rest of the men, they just do what the captain says, and they're not really saying anything. They're just waiting to see what happens. They're playing it out. They know something's not right.
So how do they meet Arminius? Or is it Arminius?
Arminius, yes.
How do they meet him and in that Germanic tribe?
Well, in the process of running into this movie production, quote unquote, they saved three young girls, and the three young girls are from this tribe, and the girls take them to the village. Now, Arminius is not there at the time because he's with the Roman army, because he worked with them. He was part of the Roman army, and but he does come home when the soldiers are there, and that in itself is a meeting, because he rides into town with his horse, and all he sees is these 16 strange people.
Strange looking. Yeah, they're dressed in strange.
Yes. In camouflage suit with with helmets on, and it's strange to him. So, and that's interesting. Their first appearance is very interesting in the book.
Now, you say that Captain Matt Taylor has great, inspirational, captivating speeches. What do you mean by that?
That's Sergeant Matt Taylor. He's kind of I guess you could say, the religious leader, and he inspires the people. He sees his first big speech is about freedom, and he sees freedom not being, well, you have to realize this is right after they have realized where they're at now. And so the discussion is, how do we get back? Can we get back to our own time, or what? And they're talking about setting up a new town or living with these people. What should they do? And the one thing they don't want to do is they don't want to fight. They don't want to fight the Romans because it's not their battle. And Matt comes out and says, it is our battle because we stand for freedom. America has always stood for freedom, and we see freedom being destroyed here. All these people here, all the Germanic tribes want to do is live, and the Romans are trying to take them over. So basically, that's where he stands.
It looks like you also have a love story here.
Yes, and that's between Lieutenant Ben Simpson and Sarah. And
Sarah, again, remind us who Sarah is.
Okay, now, Ben Simpson's wife was killed in 9/11. Sarah is the daughter of the professor. She was also a hostage. She's the doctor. She was a doctor in a German hospital. Her husband was killed in the attack, in the terrorist attack that day. So, and she's going through all these emotions, but she doesn't have time to really show the emotions because everything's happening so fast.
So there's a terrorist attack that day in 2009, and then there's this time warp that throws them all together back to the year 9 A.D.
That is correct.
Wow, that's a lot going on.
Yes, and she's having a hard time grasping that, because she hasn't even had time to mourn. She saw her husband get killed by the terrorist,
right?
And then now she's here. And that's what a love story develops. And it's an interesting love story because it's a love story that was always there, but they just didn't know it. And you don't realize that until the very, very end.
Well, I'm sure it has a very interesting ending, and we certainly don't want you to give that away. What else can you tell us that will just give us a little bit of like we're at the movies, a little bit of a preview, so to speak? Just a couple minutes we have left.
Okay. Well, the book to me, is more about relations than it is about the battle itself. The battle is big in it, but the relationships among the people, among the men and the Germanic tribes, that's where it's at. And
so they become close friends, allies, and really count on each other.
Oh, yes, they do. And Frankie and Charlie, the people who've been writing me and talking to me about the book, the biggest responses I've been getting is with Frankie and Charlie, when their friends have to say goodbye to them. And I won't tell you how or why they have to say goodbye, but it's pretty emotional. Well,
and there must be some military tactics that are fairly interesting here too. Again, you've got this huge Roman army, even though the Americans give them obviously an advantage, but at the same time, they have limited ammunition, I guess, too, don't they?
That is correct. Yeah, but you do have 6 snipers. And I won't say any more than that.
Okay. So that gives, yeah, they I guess they could pick off a lot of Roman soldiers.
They could.
Well, there's the reason why, there's the reason why in history all these Romans were killed. You've got the answer.
That's right. Who knows?
What else could have happened?
Yeah. When you read the ending, you understand more about it, too. So, because the ending gives the story of what happens to each of their lives after the battle. And it's interesting in itself.
Well, I hope that everyone will read this, and I hope you're successful in getting on the big screen. It sounds like it's such a unique storyline. I interview a lot of authors, and you've got a great one.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So tell us how to get your book, John.
You can go to www.arthurhouse.com and put in Terror in Teutoburg Forest. You can also get it on Amazon and places like that.